And because in that business, if you were beautiful, you were loved, and if you weren't, you weren't. And so I went into this, spiral, really seeking to do the runway, and we starved ourselves to do the runway. We did everything we could, and of course there was drug abuse and all those other things going on. And I did the runway for Giorgio Armani in Italy, and began to work closely with him, and he's the king of fashion, and so I felt like I had really gotten to a place where I was supposed to be fulfilled, and of course I was not fulfilled because I didn't have a greater purpose. I didn't have love. I had the acceptance of the world, but I didn't have a relationship with God, and I felt so empty. And I began to cry out for love in my life, that there could be love. And after that, the anorexia began to catch up with me, and I began to break out in terrible acne, because the hormonal effect on the starving myself on my body. My hair fell out, I got everything stolen from me. I began to be really rejected by the photographers and the agents and the business because I wasn't perfect anymore. And again, there's that pretty new girl coming to town, what do they need you for? So Armani kicked me off his runway, and I lost the favor of the photographers, and that is when some people over in Europe presented the gospel message to me. And I was 23 years old, and no one had ever explained the gospel to me. No one had ever told me that Jesus could heal me and that Jesus could free me. Never.
And you heard it overseas?
Yes, I heard it overseas. I got my backpack stolen from me, and that led to a conversation with this girl who was traveling around the world in a small hill town in Italy. Well, I didn't believe her. So then I moved to Germany, but I remembered her, and she told me she was going to pray for me. So then I go to Germany, and in Germany, I met this group of people handing out Bibles in a park.
God bless them.
And they barely spoke any English at all. But they got me an English Bible, and they brought me to church, and I didn't understand a word. It was all in German. But it was
you understood love, didn't you?
But it was warm there, and it was love. It was love came around me. And so I'm reading about the wide road and the narrow road in this new Bible, and I'm thinking, well, I'm on the wide road. But this is the only road I've ever known.
And where does it lead?
Destruction. But the narrow road is hard, and few find it, and it leads to life. But I didn't know how to get to the narrow road. So one day I'm going into the center of Munich. I'm on my way to an interview, and this man just stops me on the side of the street. You know what? He looked a little bit like you, but he had shining blue eyes and silver hair. And he just stops me in the middle of the road. And as I was walking along, I was thinking, this is a really wide road. This is really wide. And there's no life, there's no trees, there's no love, there's nothing, but it's the only road I've ever known, so here we go. And he just stops me in the middle of the road, and he told me to turn around and go back the other way. And I said, excuse me, I'm going to an interview. I have something I need to do. And he said, well, what is this interview? I said, well, I go to them, I show them my pictures, they, decide if they want to hire me or fire me or whatever. And he says, you go to them and they want to use you like a piece of furniture? This is disgusting. My dear, turn around. Go back now. Go back the way you came. I said, well, I have a job, I have a life, I have a career. No. You go back to America where you belong, my dear. You cannot sell beauty.
Cannot sell it.
You cannot sell your face. Go home. Go home.
God bless him.
And I turned around that day. I never took another picture for money again. I gave my life to Christ, and I came home. Everybody thought I was crazy, but I was free,
Praise God.
I was free. And then he freed me again. He freed me of this whole desire to be perfect. And he gave me this ministry, and he gave me an amazing family. And I'm so blessed. I'm going to cry. Would you say something?
Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Would you all say thank God with me? I thank God. I just, let me tell you, she's talking about this road to finding perfection, and you don't ever get there. You're in pursuit of the one who perfects all things, however damaged they are, however inappropriate, however impure, however dismal, however dark. Betty and I, we're so far from perfect. You say, we knew that. Why'd you waste your breath? I understand. But Betty, you might think, she's cool, but she's got some issues. I mean, we have issues. But here's the thing. Listen to me. There's a couple in hot pursuit of the perfecter.
That's right.
The one who's perfect. And that is precisely what Jennifer's telling you. Yeah. And you just broke down, help me, I'm going to start crying. Oh, yeah. This is real, because you were freed from this bondage and this trap. And don't you see a lot of girls and a lot of people trapped? They may have never gotten on the runway, but they're still trying to be like somebody else. They still feel like they're coming up short. They're still compromising their morals, trying to find somebody who loves them, because some guy will tell them anything to get them to do everything.
Of course.
And they don't find love.
Of course.
They find compromise, they find hurt, but you found love. I sense you found love.
I found the perfect love. I found the perfect love, and it gave me the perfect...
And you're married, and your husband, he loves you, right?
He really loves me.
And is he perfecting this perfect love, God perfecting your husband too, to where he's a different guy?
Well, of course, we're both in pursuit of a perfect God, and we don't have a perfect marriage or a perfect life, but we are in pursuit of a perfect God and God's perfect plan for our lives. And that, you know, the thing about the girls and the women of this generation, they're enslaved, as I was, by this illusion of the perfect image. If I could just have the perfect body, then I'll be loved. If I could just have the perfect look, the perfect fashion, I'll be loved. Or for men and women, you know, if I could just have the perfect dream, you know, the perfect success, you know, then I will have arrived. You know, what I found is when I arrived, it was more like a departure, because I realized in that was not going to be the fulfillment of the longings of my heart, of the little things I longed for when I was a little girl. You know, the love that I longed for, the hope and a future. You can only get that in God. And we see these girls, you know, with these eating disorders, and they feel like they have to get plastic surgery to be beautiful, and they think they have to look like the girls in the magazines. You need to read my book. Because the girls in the magazines are, most of them, not all, but they're miserable. I lived with them. I had to tell their stories. I was miserable. I was hollow when I was on the runway. I was empty inside.
Yeah, why so many suicides for the famous? And you reached that point where you didn't want to live. You were ready to die. And the sad thing is, there are churches everywhere, but they're not running into enough people like those Germans that hit you with a double-barreled shotgun of love, and then that old guy that talked that beautiful accent that you could mimic so well, who's telling you to turn around. This guy was like an angel. You got to wonder, was he an angel who turns you around? The church is supposed to be like that. Christians are supposed to be like that. That's what you're being. And by the way, Jennifer will go speak. She'll come to your church, your area. She'll do anything to help the girls and everybody to understand who is this perfecter of all things. And that's what you want to do, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I knew the moment I came home from the modeling industry that I was going to write the story someday, and I had no idea how God was really going to use it. It took a long time for me to heal from everything that I had been through. And I talk in the book about the healing that God really did in my life. And the final chapter in the healing is when you're able to turn your experiences around and really minister to other people, and use your life. Use your life. And it all began, you know, when you talked about that love, it all began on my knees when I said, I really want some love. And that's the thing, is that I don't know if he necessarily puts those angels into your lives until you're really ready, until you're on your knees and you say...
They may be there, but you don't notice them.
Right. I was begging for direction. Yeah, I was begging for direction, and he showed himself to me again and again and again, because he couldn't wait. He couldn't wait to take those broken pieces of my life and put them back together, and they were more beautiful when he was done with me.
I want you to get this book. And there's the website, where if you want to say, would Jennifer maybe come and speak to the girls in our area? Could we do something? Well, you can find out what can happen. You could communicate. And you can even order the book there on her website, or you can get it in the bookstores. But probably most girls need to read this. It would probably really help them on their journey. And I encourage you to do it. Would all of you say thanks to Jennifer for being so open and so honest? Such a big help. Thank you. And you know, we find such joy, Jennifer. You know, you're talking about how you encountered Christ overseas with people who could hardly make themselves heard and understood. But love, hey, listen, it never fails.